God loves you. Boys and girls, that's the message that I gave last week. I don't know if you got it, but your moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas who are here in church, they got it. God loves you. Isn't that a wonderful thing to know for sure that somebody can love you? Isn't it wonderful? Isn't that what you really want to know? That God loves you? That someone loves you? Don't you really want to know that? And when you know that somebody loves you, doesn't it like touch you right here? It like feels good to know that. Yes? Yeah? Yeah, sure it does. God loves you. That was the message last week, and it was kind of a prelude to the beginning of a new series, which I'm starting this week, a new message series. And the new message series is all about expectations and the response that love demands. You see, because if God loves you, and he does, then you and I, we must all respond to that love. That's the nature of love. The nature of love is, I love you, you return it. Some way, somehow. When you love another, the other returns it. You love your spouse, those of you who are married, you return that love. You love your brothers and sisters, you do your best to return that love. That's the nature of love. Let me put it to you this way. If you were to take a seed and plant it in the ground and then do nothing, the chances are pretty good that nothing will happen. But if you plant a seed in the ground and make sure that that seed gets sunlight, and gets water, and gets other nutrients, you fertilize it, the seed is going to germinate, it's going to sprout, and eventually it will bear fruit. That's what happens with seeds. Love is the same way. We can expect the same thing when we make an appropriate response to love. Love grows. And that's the theme of this new series. When we fulfill the expectations, when we respond in love to love, we can be assured that there will be growth. Great things will happen. God will do wonderful things for us. Because the nature of love is fruitful. Moms and dads, your children are the fruit of your love for each other. See, that's why I wanted the kids here today, because I want them to hear that message from me. You boys and girls are here because of the love of your moms and dads. You're here also because of the love of God. And that love will grow if it is nourished. To grow is to come into existence, to develop, to come to feel or know something over time, to undergo a natural development, to increase in size. Boys and girls, are you getting bigger? Yeah? Bigger than you were a year ago, I bet. To change physically, and to progress in maturity. That's what happens when you grow. Growth also happens seasonally. There are times in your life that all of a sudden, why are my pants so short? Right? Doesn't that happen? Because there's a season of growth. Why does my shirt not fit around my belly anymore? Because there's a season of growth. But the truth is that growth happens all the time. In fact, even in the winter, when the plants are dormant, or at least they appear to be dormant and not growing, indeed they are, because growth always is quietly taking place. So over the course of these next few weeks, I'm going to be talking about the expectations that we ought to have in response to love. The response that we ought to give in order for love to grow in our lives as individuals, but also as a parish community. The love that Jesus wants to grow in our lives so that we can become more powerfully his intentional disciples, especially those of us who are here at Mass. Each week, what I'm going to do, and boys and girls, you'll be doing this too over the course of the next few weeks, I'm going to take a letter of the word grows and apply it to an expectation. Kind of like an expectation that's one of those nutrients that you need in order for love to grow. So today we're going to start with the letter G. And the letter G stands for this: go to Mass and receive the Eucharist. Okay? That's pretty simple to remember. G, go to Mass and receive the Eucharist. Now, I know that there are some of you that are just preparing or will soon be preparing in the next year or so to receive communion. Be patient. That'll happen. But let's talk first about going to Mass. And don't worry, folks, this is not one of those messages, you terrible people, you should be going to Mass every week. Who you? Not one of those. You're here. I could never preach that kind of a message to you. It's more of a why go to Mass kind of message. The writer of Sirach in that first reading that we heard says this: the one who serves God willingly is heard. His petition reaches the heavens. The prayer of the lowly pierces the clouds. It does not rest until it reaches its goal. Prayer and worship together as a community here at Mass, which we do week after week, is the most fundamental work that we do as a faith community. Let me say that again. What we're doing here right now is the most fundamental work that we can do as a community. And notice I use that word work. You don't think about coming to Mass as work, do you? I do. This is what I do. This is my job. I work. Father, what are you doing this weekend? I'm working. But it's your work as well. In fact, that word liturgy, it comes from a Greek word that means work. The work of the people, what we do. In the Catechism of the Church, we read this about Mass. It says, the celebration of the Eucharistic sacrifice is wholly directed toward the intimate union of the faithful with Christ through communion. Now listen to that phrase, because this is really what it's saying, is that we gather together as a community to experience the love of Jesus Christ through the Eucharist and receiving communion. We gather together to receive the Eucharist. Not I come to church to receive the Eucharist, but we gather together as a community to experience what God has to offer us. Coming here is about gathering together as a community of believers. And the prayer that we offer, the worship that we give to God, rises up to heaven, and it will not rest until it reaches its goal. Its goal is our union with God, as long as that prayer is offered willingly. The psalm we heard, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. No one incurs guilt who takes refuge in him. And when we come to Mass, we bring with us our very lives, all that we are. All of the joys, all of the blessings that we receive, but also the struggles, the brokenness, the sufferings that we experience throughout the course of our days. We bring them with us, and we lay them all at the feet of Jesus. And when we do, we can be assured that there is no guilt. We will incur no guilt. But if you're coming to Mass and you're feeling guilty, well, maybe you're not taking refuge in God. But like the story in the gospel, taking refuge in yourself. Because think about it, there were those two that went to the temple to pray, Jesus tells us, the little parable. And the one was a Pharisee who went and, notice what Jesus says, prayed to himself, "Oh God." He prayed to himself. He wasn't praying to God. He was self-righteous. And like the one who feeds off guilt, trying to justify his actions. But the other, the tax collector, the sinner, he's the one who beats his chest and says, "God, be merciful to me, a sinner." Because he goes there to the temple to pray with all who are with him so that he can experience the love and the forgiveness of a God who imposes no guilt, no shame, none whatsoever. And maybe a good way to understand this is to look at it from the perspective of going to Thanksgiving dinner at your in-laws. That's always a pleasant experience, isn't it? I hope it is, really, I do. But there might be one or two of you for whom that might not be a pleasant experience. And you go there and you're going to go to the in-laws for dinner. Or maybe you react, "Yeah, this is going to be a great time." How do you react to that? Those kinds of things. You know, what are the things that you do that you say, "Oh, I got to do this. I don't really want to, but I know I have to"? What are the things that you go to joyfully? The things that you look forward to? Are you here at Mass begrudgingly? Are you here at Mass because someone forced you to come because they said, "You got to go to Mass"? Huh? Are you here because, it's 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, it's time to go to Mass, I better get there. That's what I do at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. Don't let anybody get in my way. Are you here because you know what's here and you want it? Are you here for the Word? Are you here for the Eucharist? More so, are you here to worship and pray together with brothers and sisters? Now, I know that there are times when you can't be here. I know that there are many parishioners who can't be here because of age and health. Some can't be here because they have to work. Some can't be here because they're traveling. And those things happen, and there probably are other legitimate reasons why you can't be here. And this really is the exciting news that I want to share with everyone today, because today we are starting a brand new service for those especially who can't be here at Mass. Now, this is not an excuse to stay home. In fact, it doesn't really count. But at least it's an alternative. If because of age or health you get sick and you can't come to Mass, you can still watch it on your computer. And all you have to do is to go to the parish website and click on Watch Live, and you'll see us right now celebrating Mass. In fact, that camera that's up there in the choir loft that Christopher is operating, smile, you're on candid camera. Live for the whole world to see. That's pretty exciting, and it's a great way for people who can't be here to worship with us, especially our parishioners. It's also a great way, if you can't be here with us, to be able to catch up on the message that you missed because you're not here to hear it. And you don't want to miss these messages, especially when they're a series, because who knows what the R will mean next week, right? But that brings me to the second part of the letter G. that receiving the Eucharist part. And while I know that most of you receive communion, I know that some of you are getting ready to receive communion at First Communion in May, I also know that there's quite a few who don't receive the Eucharist, who don't receive communion. And that's a problem. While it's great that you're here, it's important to remember that love is a two-way street. You see, God comes along and he knocks on the door, but he's waiting for you on the inside to open it. St. Paul says to Timothy in the second reading, I have competed well, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. You see, there's a part of our relationship with God that requires us to act. We have to do something. Each one of us, every one of us, no matter how young or old you are, has a very important role to play in the life of this community. Everyone has a very important role to play. Each one of us has to run the race of faith so that we can experience the overwhelming love of God. So I'll make the invitation again, especially for those of you adults who are not receiving communion. There is very little that I can't fix so that you can receive this great gift. And be mindful of what Jesus says in John's Gospel. Unless you eat my body and drink my blood, you have no life within you. This is a gift that everyone should be able to receive. If you are not receiving communion for any reason, I make this invitation for you to come and speak with me, because I want to help you to be able to receive the Eucharist. If I can't help you, I know people who can. I will help you find someone so that you can receive the Eucharist. Please, come and talk to me. Don't stay away from this great gift. You see, you have to remember, Jesus did not institute the Eucharist for angels, and nor did he institute the Eucharist for saints. Believe it or not, because angels and saints are in heaven with him. They don't need it. You and I do. Sinners need the Eucharist. And he did that for us for a very good reason, so that his love can grow within each one of us.